So before we go on with the regular topic, I wanted to share something on the parasha. Parashat Chayei Sarah. Right after Sarah Imenu passed away, Avram prepares for her burial. He decides to bury her in Hebron in Marat Machpelah. And the Torah gives this lengthy, detailed description of his buying the burial place. A whole long discussion with the people of Bnei Chet and Ephron, and the give and take back and forth. Why? We know in the Torah that they learn even certain laws from even one letter in the Torah. Every word is exact. Everything is meaningful. What this long, lengthy discussion, the details. Why is it so important, this whole chapter here? Could have just said in one line that Avram bought the place of burial for Sarah. So one of the classic commentators, the Ibn Ezra, Rabbi Evan and Ibn Ezra, it says, he writes, to tell you, Ma'alat Eretz Yisrael, to relate to us the uniqueness, the great level of the land of Israel. Al Kol Aratzot, greater as opposed to all the other lands. The great value over all the other lands. L'chayim u'lemetim, for the living and for the dead. Even to be buried there. As people just did the siyum in the Daf Yomi of Ketubot, how the value of even being buried in Eretz Yisrael, how it atones for all the sins, etc. So the Ibn Ezra writes here, this whole lengthy thing to show you the love, the connection, the value of Eretz Yisrael for the living and even for the dead. That it shows how important it is for Avram Avinu, how he went through all this and the discussion and the bowing down to them and then giving them the price. Ultimately, he said he paid an exorbitant price. And the rabbis say in the Midrash how that's why it's called Eretz Chemda, the cherished land, how it was cherished by all the Nitchamdu la avot haolam. All the fathers cherished this land. Also, in later, when Yaakov goes to Shechem, and also the Torah details to us how he bought the field outside next to Shechem. It's called Kever Yosef, the grave of Yosef ultimately. Also, the Ibn Ezra writes there, it told you this to tell us Ma'ala Gdola Yesh LaEretz Yisrael. It is to tell you this great value of Eretz Yisrael. Umi sheyesh b'chelek, and he whoever has a portion in this, a portion of Eretz Yisrael, chashuvu kechelek olam haba. It's if he has a portion in the world to come. A place in Eretz Yisrael is a piece of shtikul olam haba. It's this other world in this world. A piece here, you have a place in this higher world. Interestingly, let me just to finish off, there's a midrash, a famous midrash, that it says there are three places that we bought, that explicit in the Torah, that we paid for. What is it? The first one we just said, Avram Avinu, Marat Machpelah, Yaakov in Shechem, tells you how much he paid, etc. And also David bought the Aravna, bought from the place of Yerushalayim, the Beit HaMikdash. So the rabbis say this is one of the three places that the nations have no ability to lehonot Israel. So the simple meaning is they have no place to claim against us. Here you see explicitly we have the writ of, we have our Jose. What's the Jose? We have our contract. We bought it. That we bought the land. So these are three places that the nations cannot say you have stolen. Gzulim may be they're stolen property. You took it from us. Marat Machpelah, the Beit HaMikdash, and the Kuratosh in the place of Yosef, where he's buried. And those are the three that are most contested today till this day, right? It says these are the three that there's no room for complaints and no claims against us. And that's what, unfortunately, that we see. But Bruckman explains that lahonot, what the wording of the rabbis here, the Midrash Rabbah, right, in Breshit Rabbah 79, it says lahonot, to deceive Israel. Now, what's the deception? So, explains that the here there's no room for any deception. In other words, the nations will try to deceive us into convincing us that we have no rights to the land. In other words, not that they claim it's theirs, that they try to convince us that we should believe that we're thieves. Right, the famous Rashi, the first Rashi on the Torah, that why is the whole book of Breshit? It should have started with the first mitzvah, the first commandment of the nation, is in Shemot chapter 12, to make the sanctification of time, to Rosh Chodeshim, the nation, the new month. So Rashi says, the name of Rabbi Yitzchak, that the Torah, all the book of Breshit is to tell you the connection of God, the promise of the Jewish people, the land of Israel. The nation shouldn't say, or couldn't say, or wouldn't be able to say, although they have said it, in spite of that you guys are thieves, you've stolen the land. And God created the world, took this land and gave it to the Jewish people. So the whole book of Breshit, but the rabbi said they bring the verse to testify to the nation. It doesn't say testify to the nations. In other words, the testimony is the book that we should know, first and foremost, that it's ours. The nations try to convince us that we're thieves, and we start to believe it ourselves. We have to. The first thing is to know that the tzidkat darkenu, the justification, the truth in our way that we're going, understanding that God gave this place in this world to this nation to bring down His name, to bring down goodness and holiness, to uplift to the good of all the nations, like the blessing of the fathers. All the nations of the world will be blessed through you. Through this place, Jews in Eretz Yisrael, that enables this blessing to come to all, not just for us. It's our private gift. It's the way that God created the world, that His gift, this blessing, this connection to Him, to beyond this world, is through this location, geographical location on this planet, to this people, and that enables blessing in the good, like the heart, that the Kuzari says, the heart of the nations, that brings life to all. But nevertheless, the convincing is first and foremost to the Jewish people. So here the Midrash said that the nations will not be able to convince you, not be able to try to deceive you into thinking that you're thieves, that here you know that you have the contract of that you bought the land, these three places especially, and that we have to remember it today when, indeed, in spite of all that, we still have those that complain and claim that it's theirs, but it's coming for us. You know, that's to force us to come to this realization and recognition of what is the meaning of our presence and value of being in the land of Israel. Is it ours? Maybe it's like we mentioned, the adolescent stage, that the question the child begins to ask, who am I? What am I living for? What am I for? These are questions that are good because he's now advancing beyond the stage of the child that just accepts, grows without understanding, without just instinctive development. But now the next stage, understand the meaning, who you are, what you are. So in between, there's an interim phase. I mentioned last week, Rav Kook has an article in Marmarira, the Tkufat HaMavar, the transition period, that goes from this phase of the instinct to intellect to conscious understanding. There's this phase of seeming like the adolescent stage of breaking, of revolution, of searching, of identity, and there's rebelling against all that was, because he's ready for more, demands more, and is not satisfied with what was satisfactory up till now, of just doing without understanding, just being in the land of Israel. It's ours, and Zionism, all of a sudden now there's questions. Who says it's yours? And the nations, if you didn't have the question, the nations will force these questions upon you, to force yourself to, is it yours? What are you doing here? And that's this divine mechanism which forces out the next stage of understanding, indeed, what is our significance of our presence and possession of the land of Israel. That's what we're trying to study here a little bit, to expose that, to facilitate this process, to bring the adolescent nation to its adult stage of recognition, understanding, and to bring God's name to the world, B'ezrat Hashem, B'Rabbi Ameinu, which connects to what we were learning. Pass out the sheets again. We were discussing that very topic of recognizing and revealing the inner source, the content of this historical movement of the Jews coming back to Israel. What is really taking place? What is pushing? It seems to be a secular, man-made Zionism. In other words, some a movement that other nations also become nationalistic and want to come to their land or establish a nationhood. But to understand what really is taking place here, right? The fulfillment of all the prophecies of God will return the Jews back to Zion, bring us back to the ingathering of exiles, the land developing and growing, in order to be, like I said before, this nation, kingdom of priests and holy nation from Zion. We've read this morning, right? From Zion will go out Torah, the word of God from Yerushalayim. this godliness, this goodness, this holiness, this elevation, reorientation of life, the true meaning of life, the beauty of life, the connection to God, and all the ramifications of that in practice, like in moral, of changing of man to be good, to beat his swords into plowshares, like it says in Yeshayahu chapter 2, in the continuation of that, what I just cited. To understand that's what's taking place here. And it reveals itself in what seems to be a man-made, secular project, that we discussed at length in the classes up till now. And we'll continue with Hashem. But here, Rav Kook, so to speak, I brought you we started last week, a few paragraphs from the book of Orot of Rav Avram Yitzchak Cohen Kook, right, the first chief rabbi of Israel, established the rabbinate to organize that there should be a central spiritual center to unify the Jewish people and to uplift, to expose to the nation its true ideal and goal. So in this book, again, it teaches us how to recognize beyond the surface. I brought you, and I bring over and over again, you should know it by heart already, right? Ezu Chacham, who is the wise? Aroeh, what? That's in Pirkei Avot. Nachon. What did you say? Aroeh Tanolah. That's in Tractate Tamid, 32. You're right. They also say what you said in Pirkei Avot. Ezu Chacham. But here, in the Tractate of Tamid, Ezu Chacham Aroeh Tanolad.
Also Pirkei Avot, no?
And then it says something else. And it says what he learns from everyone, other people. There it says also Ezu Chacham Lo Made Mikol Adam. But he that sees the Nolad. No, he that sees what is. Of course, but here I'm saying that seeing the inner, what is developing, what is growing, not what is presently revealed. That everyone sees the newspaper, take a picture, you see the moment. But what is the process? What is Hashem doing? What is beneath the surface, pushing and growing and developing? In other words, in this seemingly secular, on the surface, that's what it is, secular movement of the Jews coming back for not religious, even anti-religious, and if you judge it by that, we ask the people, is this the hand of God? Is this some religious movement to bring back the temple and Jewish people to be a holy nation? Mapitom, we're coming back to run away from pogroms, from Holocaust, etc. They give you thousands of reasons, for emotional reasons. But what is really taking place here? Not what the people say. There's a conscious level, and we know now there's also what's called a subconscious level. Here I would call it the superconscious level, the neshama level, the inner divine dimension level. What is really pushing? And that's what we have to study to see Ezu Chacham. We mentioned Rabbi Kiva vision, the end of the Tractate of Makot, that sees the temple destroyed and the jackals, and he sees what's coming out of that, not just the moment. He sees the moment with its deteriorated state and then defiling the holy place, but he sees what comes out of that, what grows, what is pushing here. The third temple that is starting to grow actually from the seeds from this destruction of the second temple. So here, let's get right into it. We saw the first paragraph on this sheet. The second one is also from Orot Atchiyah, Lights of Renaissance, you can call it a renewal, in chapter 9. And again, this is the end of the chapter. It's a beautiful, amazing chapter, very important. But we'll just see to make it short, what's in front of you. Kol kinyanei shalomah. Line number, anyway, the second paragraph, so for the first line. Kol kinyanei, all the assets, all the aspects of the nation, of the Jewish nation, shehem chavivim aleh mitzad rucha lumi, which are dear to it from its national point of view, from its national spirit. In other words, nationalistic things of government, of army, of even the culture, of he'll give the examples here. The seemingly national concepts, kulam ruach elokim shorabim. The Spirit of God is within all of them. Artsah, for what? We're talking about the land, its language, its history, its customs. These are all like nationalistic things, so to speak. The nation loves them and deals with them as nothing like God religion. It's like every nation has its culture and its land, and it's very patriotic, etc. If should be once upon a time, a time from the times, there'll be an awakening of a national spirit, or first of all, the spirit, a new current of awakening of Renaissance, שיאמרו כל אלה בשם רוח האומה לבדה. That they will say in the name of the national spirit alone. A nationalistic spirit, a waking up of nationhood, nationalistic awareness and consciousness. We want to be a nation again, and Zionism. וישתדלו לשלול את רוח אלוקים מעל כל הנקים הללו, וממקורם הגלוי שהוא רוח האומה. And they will attempt to deny any connection to anything spiritual, to the ruach, the spirit of God. Nothing to do with religion. Ma pitom. We don't even want religion. They come to shlo, not that you don't mention it. Lishlo, they come to negate it. Nothing to do with religion. Keep your religion away. That was in the galut. The Jews needed that, whatever, kept them. But you see that how religion keeps you overbent, weak, and just learning the books of Torah. We want life. We want vitality. We want to become a nation, an army, and to be strong amongst the world.
Yeah, that's not true.
That's what they say. So you'll see the next line. So that's what they're saying. Yes, they say that. Not everyone, but yes, there were those that said that, indeed. What should the righteous of the generation do? What should the leaders do? The rabbis are supposed to understand and guide this child. That's the whole book of Orot, over and over again. He talks about the tzaddikim, the leaders, we mentioned last week also, the balei hashpa'ah, those of influence. This is a handbook for, not the average citizen, let's say. This is for those that are ready for, prepared for, are willing to be, those that can influence, and those are the wise that see the inside, want to see the guide for those that want to develop their perspective and see not just beyond the moment what everyone sees. To lead the nation, to guide it, you have to first of all judge it, and then you can guide it. Otherwise, the problem is you otherwise misjudge it and misguide it. The rebellious child, what do? Get rid of him, throw him away. That's what he says. He has, so to speak, as the first initial, as a rhetorical answer. What are the leaders supposed to do? Limrod baruch to rebel against this national spirit? This is nationalism. This is against religion. The two are mutually exclusive. Religion, mutually exclusive. It's either religion or nationalism. So get rid of this. We've had thousands of years of Judaism, of Torah. We sacrifice our lives to continue this, and now you're throwing it away. So we want to throw away religion. It's either that, one or the other. So get rid of this. Get rid of this national spirit. Afilu b'dibur. Should they negate this national spirit, even in speech? Even again, to speak and write against it, to revolt against it, reject it, and to despise its acquisitions, to get rid of its these national things we just mentioned, nationhood and land and army and all these things of the aspect of the nation. That's the first reaction, no? Why not? Look what they're doing. They're anti-religious. It's threatening all that was holy for us for thousands of years. This nationalism. That's why in Hungary, there was a very strong, call it the certain Hasidic group or whatever, very strong national and religious, and the awakenings of certain national movements there, that the spiritual movement, the religious were against the national. The national therefore became even more anti-religious. The more they became anti-religious, the more the religious became anti-national, anti-Zionist. It was very, in Hungary and in Satmar and St. Mary, they became very, these two mutually exclusive groups, the very strong till this day, right? You've heard of Satmar and then Turikarta. Now, this aspect of, yes, it's either one or the other. It's a fight to the death. It's either one or the other, the spirit, this national spirit, or this, wait, get to the next line. You can read inside, you see inside. So it's either one or the other, they thought. That's what it seems to be. And the people are even saying that. The name of the nationalism, that they'll come in the name of nationalism and say they wish to strip the nation from any spiritual essence or content, from the Spirit of God, the Ruach Elokim. So what should we do? Reject and rebel? Zeu davar she'ifshar. That's impossible. Why? Ruach Hashem v'Ruach Yisrael echadu. Because the Spirit of Hashem and the Spirit of Israel are one. They're intertwined. It's a package deal. When the Jewish mother has a baby, the baby can say all day, I don't believe in Judaism, I don't want Jews suffer, Jews anti-Semitism in the world, I want my child to be not Jewish, to have no neshama, no spiritual, no holiness. It's a package deal. When that baby's born, there's a neshama inside. On the conscious level, on the subject, you could say, I don't believe, but there's a neshama inside. That's a fact. That's the fact. However, the Ruach Elokim, that's the reality of the way that Am Yisrael is built, that has that neshama. That's a divine creation, if we repeat over and over again, right? In Yeshayahu 43:21. Amzu yitzarti li tilati. So this nation haven't created to say my name. Like in the book of Dvarim 32, right? Chelak Hashem amo. The peace of God in this world is my nation. This is an adjective divine creation. As the Maral, we mentioned on Friday night, right? The Shabbat. The Maral, Netzach Yisrael, chapter 11. That this divine creation of the nation of Israel, it's not some man-made club and group according to what we understand or believe and accept. This is the reality. Now your free will comes in to understand, to live up to, or not live up to, God forbid, in other words, but to live up to what? Your potential, your reality. And there's a difference if it's a reality that's there or you have to accept or bring upon yourself. Here there's, again, a lot of difference and ramifications of that. But nevertheless, Rav Kook is explaining and showing that they're stripping it down to the spiritual makeup of the world. It's such that the Spirit of God and the Spirit of the nation of Israel are one. Like I said, it's a package deal. But the people are rejecting it. Like I said, if the people say all day, they take a vote, God forbid, there's no God in the world. So you see, democracy, whatever, they voted that there's no God. That changes the fact that there's no God in the world. It's very, how do you say, very severe, and it's no good, and according to that causes a lot of problems and damage, etc. But it doesn't change the reality. So the reality is such that they're one. They can't strip themselves of that divinity, of that divine essence. They cannot live accordingly. They can reject it. Like the child can say, "Oh, Dad, I don't believe in the Shem. I don't want to be. I want to be like everyone else." That's very sad, but he's going against himself. So what should the leaders do? To say that, again, to get rid of the national side, but like I said before, we mentioned like the rabbis say how the fruit, actually the shell precedes the fruit. Right? The negative, the outside, the exterior, the physical precedes the spiritual, so to speak, in manifestation. Right? The neshama comes down, and then the body, you see the body first, and it develops, motor development, and child. We mentioned infancy, childhood, adulthood. So first you see the neshama. We mentioned all throughout history, right? Adam Rishon, first the body, the dust from the earth, and then vayipach b'apav nishmach, and then I'll blow into it the neshama of life. But the neshama is there. But the development is such in this world that first the neshama prepares its receptacle, its housing, a strong body to reveal and accept that neshama. So that the child can grow up and say, I don't believe, I don't want. But the neshama is there. Our goal as a teacher is not to say, like I said before, the fruit, that there's a fruit inside that shell. If you just taste the bitter fruit and say, oh, I don't want this is bitter. And so you cut off the fruit, you cut off the whole thing, but there's a fruit inside. If you cut off the national, you go against the national. First of all, it won't work because inside that is this neshama, is this holy, divine, created essence. All you have to do, though, is what he'll say now, is to show and expose the true essence of what is there. Let me just read what's underlined here. Ela shehem tzrichim hu, these rabbis, these tzaddikim, the righteous, who have this special vision that don't just see the moment, don't just see what the child is saying, what the nation is saying, the secular movement is saying. They see within, they see what is really taking place, what the child himself is not aware. He thinks he's bemet some other nation like everyone else. But rather, what are they supposed to do? Shem tzrichim la'avod avodah gdola, a great effort, a great work. It's not so simple. To teach an individual child, a person, it's not so simple. To teach a nation to return to himself, who you really are, to put up the mirror in front of him and understand what is the deeper essence, the true essence. It's not so simple. It's not an overnight process. What are they supposed to do? This great work? Legalot et ha'or v'hakodesh sheberuach ha'umah. To reveal and expose, not to make something new, to try to convince, to convert, but to reveal and expose the light and holiness that is within that national spirit, because they're one. Because that's what's pushing the whole process. Like I said, the neshama is in that process, pushing the whole thing, the divine ideal, the goal of the future of the world. That's the nucleus, so to speak, of this whole process. But the people that are participating themselves are not aware of that source. So that's where we come in, not to agree with them. You say it's not the source, so it's not the source. No, it is the source. But like I said, it's subconscious or a superconscious that you're not aware of the source. But the more you expose to them and reveal to them who they really are, they didn't even know how great they were. In other words, it's more than you thought. You expose to them. It's more than even you thought. Well, you're coming back to be a nation like everyone else. That's also hard to understand. That they can see themselves that what's taking place in the last 70 years or so, whatever. It's beyond any some third world country that becomes independent, whatever. It's the center of all of human discussion, hate or loving, but it's beyond the logic of another nation that comes back to a land, and here after 3 times, after exile and being persecuted and suffering and coming back, that itself is unparalleled in all of human history. But you see that it's more than just some people. It's stuff. And according to the prophet, you see exactly the stages of the prophecy coming back. But the people themselves are saying, we don't want this divine spirit. We don't believe in all that. We don't believe in Yechezkel 36, 37. What are you talking about? This is the stages of development of redemption. They don't agree with that. Nachon, on the conscious level. But that's where we come in. Not to agree with them, because they say there's no God, there's no neshama, there's no divine ideal here. It's just another secular nation. but to reveal the holiness and the light that is in this process, within this movement. But et ha'or Elokim, the light of God, shebetoch kol ela, within all those assets and acquisitions of the nation, until they reach the point that all those that have this nationalistic, approach, will realize they'll find themselves mimele, that they're already trenched in. In other words, you put the mirror in front of them, they see that they're already trenched in and rooted in the divine light, divine life, illuminated with holiness and the Gvura Shel Mala, and the power from above. In other words, they'll recognize who they really are, that they're already immersed. They didn't realize what they were. They thought we're just coming back, a child development. I thought I was just building, playing ball and building my muscles. I didn't realize I'm future to be this great scholar, this great professor, whatever. No, they didn't understand who they were. That's where we come in, to help guide and direct, and not to succumb to the external facade of the moment of a secular anti-religious movement. You see, what are you guys talking about? Of course, you students, you don't see the reality. You don't see what's going on here. These people are anti-religious. They're people want to desecrate Shabbat, want to do all this, especially now what's going on again. This last stand of the, like I said before, how the divinely orchestrated crises force the development, as someone once said, right? What's it called? No, the mother of invention. Necessity is the mother of invention. So here I would say, Rav Kook writes elsewhere, crisis, or the same thing, is the mother of development. Necessity. In other words, you're forced to, if you don't want to develop, you want to stay, the child wants to stay in the womb, it's warm, it's nice. The crises, the how do you say, the contractions, the labor that force out, the state of as we mentioned before, that the adolescent, he can no longer remain a child, and even if he wants to, there's the different things that force, and here we're talking about even the nations from without and from within, that force us to come to grips with who we really are. And the question is, if the answer is readily available, have we supplied that answer? The leaders that understood the process from ahead, we know that we'll go through this crisis, it's part and parcel of the development. We can minimize that adolescent crisis of suicidal tendencies. The nation say, we don't want to be a nation. What are we doing here? We shouldn't be here. We stole the land. All these things, and succumb to the criticism of the nation, or understand to right up to what the questions are forcing us to get to the bigger answer of who indeed are you. And that's what we said before, also the previous paragraph, that Balei Hashpa'ah, right, underlined, that the leaders are supposed to reveal the light, the spiritual light that's within this material movement, and its inner goal, and inner destiny. And according to we mentioned last week, for those who weren't here, it was right, repeat. And according to the measure that they reveal this in public, so too the disease of this heresy, of this rebellion against religion, will lose its bad signs, and they'll wake up to its true essence, its natural, true reality, and reveal the splendor of its soul. Now, this is an activating force. This understanding of this process and seeing it and exposing it activates the process, and in other words, facilitates the process to bring it to its fulfillment, to the understanding of what is really taking place. And again, it'll succeed because it's not some external thing. Like we mentioned, the body rejects foreign transplants. Try to force upon the people this explanation, you're religious, it's holy, whatever. But here, it's just, all you're doing is explaining who you really are, showing the child, the nation, what's the true essence of your being and your future and your goal. And it'll be accepted because, yes, it's really him. Like, it's just putting the mirror in front of him. He says, wow, I didn't realize who I was. I thought I was just what I was up till now, an 8-year-old, 5-year-old. Now I realize that it's something much greater. That's me, but it's really me. And it is you. Actually, it's a priori. It's before you understand. But our goal is to, again, this state of history we're at now is to bring it to the understanding. Not just some instinctive drive, but to understand the awareness of what is our purpose and the divine universal essence goal of our presence and possession of this land. And again, if it's not clear to us, like I said before, then we ourselves are not certain, then there'll be these crises that force us to come to grips with this question. You won't be able to run away from it. And the crises are difficult. At the beginning, we don't know what to do, and some people say, well, so let's leave, let's go. Maybe they're right. Maybe we're whatever they call it, two nations and two land, whatever. Maybe we should give up part, whatever. It's anyway not ours. But ultimately, the nation will come back, and there will be those leaders, and that's what we're trying to be among those that help and understand. And the more that people understand and live that, he says, that activates, not that we understand, passive understanding. But that activates, that causes, according to the measure that they reveal this in public, so to speak, the disease will be healed. This problem of this not understanding who we are will be dissolved because, like I said, you melt the external facade, the shell, and the fruit is revealed. And it's there, it's been there. But again, at the beginning, it's not revealed because that's the whole thing what the rabbis say, that first comes the shell before the fruit, to protect it, to wait till it develops properly. That's part of the process. It wasn't revealed at the beginning. All you saw was evil with the secular, we mentioned, one of the keys the rabbis give us, the Tikkun Zohar, for the final redemption, the generation of the Mashiach. It says is good on the inside and evil on the outside. An evil exterior. Secular, what he says here, anti-religious, what? Evil exterior, so get rid of it, throw it away. Who wants this? This is what we prayed for. This is not only what we prayed for, this is the enemy. We have to get rid of it. Or at best, ignore it. This national movement, Zionism, we have religion. But if you understand that that's the rabbis gave us these keys to understand that it's not a simple process. To see the nolad, to be the chacham, it's not so simple. On an individual level, to be a parent is not so simple. When the child is rebelling and drugs and he's searching and he's rebelling at all of your authority and parenthood and then it's not so simple. But the solution isn't to get rid of him, to wipe him out, or to cut off his arms and legs of this mischievous child who's doing things breaking with his arms and legs. But rather redirect those powers to understand, to show the child, the adolescent, what he's meant to do with those lives, not to get rid of them. He said it won't work to get rid of the national side. That's the bottom floor for the second story of the spiritual. That's the vehicle that reveals that spiritual, that holy divine ideal, that world is now approaching the final expression of that, how to connect to Hashem, to uplift all of creation. You won't be able to get rid of that. It won't work. It won't work because that's what God is doing now, returning it. The question is how much we are able to help and prepare and to facilitate the process to make it come easier and nicer. That rebellion, like he says, will settle down and turn into an agreement, understanding, and participation of all those that thought that they were against this spiritual spirit, so to speak. The last paragraph, quickly, also from Orot HaTchiyah. This is a little bit deeper, talking about how different cultures throughout history that Am Yisrael has influenced and how they have to come back at the final redemption process to be all clarified of how they're supposed to use properly. Different things that we've influenced throughout history, even the exile. And now we're coming back to the land with all these different cultures. And he says, Lo nibahel, again, this is the end of a paragraph. Lo nibahel, we should not be shocked. We shouldn't fear if zramim nirim shonim b'chitzoniyotam. If there are now these new currents, these new movements, secular Zionism, that come back and seem different from tradition in their externality, whatever. In other words, in their external facade. On the surface, they seem to be very, like I said, not religious, not according to what we've been keeping Torah and mitzvot for the last 2,000, 3,000 years. Or Hashem Meir behem. However, the spirit of the light of God is within them. It illuminates them, is pushing within them, even if themselves are not aware of that source. Not that they will say, yes, you're right, there's the Spirit of God, the name of God, the light of God, the goal of God in the universe, the spiritual elevation of all mankind is now driving this process. It might be some, they don't say that, but that's what's true. But again, this book is to teach us what is really taking place, the X-ray vision, so to speak, to see what's taking place inside, and then, according to that, to understand the child with his challenges and difficulties, and help him get to understanding who he really is. Ruach Hashem nosesabem. This is a pasuk in Yeshayahu. We'll have to explain it, but it's like the Spirit of God is within. There's all these currents and spirits and rivers, it says there in the pasuk. The Gemara in Sanhedrin said this is the verse that's talking about there are these tzarot. There'll be these, you say tzarot, problems, pains, suffering in the time of the redemption, but also spiritual. Like it's a river, a tsar. It's like a narrow rivers. In other words, narrow streams of narrow concepts. Very, in other words, not religious, not good, and not the ideal. And that's the time of the Mashiach. There'll be these rivers, and then it says Kiva L'Tzion, right? Then the Redeemer will come to Zion. So again, the Spirit of God is within all that. Not on the surface. You don't see that on the surface. It's the undercurrent, so to speak. Nosesab Bahem. It's within all those currents. Halumiyut Achilonit, the secular Zionism. Yecholal Izdahem Bezu Amar Rabba. The secular Zionism can be defiled, can be defamed, can be full of impurity. And very bad spirits inside of it that it includes. But we will not be able, not by pushing it away, will we succeed in not by getting rid of it from the neshama will we succeed. In other words, in teaching it and in returning it, etc. By, so to speak, being against the national side. Because again, against the body, you're saying, I want to save the neshama, throw away the body. But throwing the body, that's the vehicle that the neshama needs to reveal itself in this world. That's how God created this world. He has angels that are just spiritual forces that recognize God. But the ideal is to manifest His name in this world. Nekadesh shimcha ba'olam, as we say in Kedusha. L'taken olam b'malchut shaddai, as we say in Aleinu. That this world, that it manifested through a real physical nation, body, government, army, parliament, all that is holy. And all that will be a living example of holiness, connection of godliness in worldliness, holiness, goodness, morality, in this world, with all the trappings of national existence. And that's Am Yisrael's goal. We're created to do that, and that's our choice. That's what's coming back now, and God is returning out of history this solution to man's problem. In other words, the finals of bringing the world to that connection. L'taken olam, to connect this world, to link up this world to the divine, to the good. So to get rid of that, to throw away the body is not the solution. Like I said, to throw away the shell, but there's a fruit inside. The neshama is inside that process, but rather redirect it. So what should we do? We won't succeed by getting rid of the body, so to speak, getting rid of this national spirit. What should we do? Ki'im bishtadlut nimratza, but rather with great effort. Lahavia el makor elyon, but to reconnect it, to bring it to its true lofty source. Lechabra, to connect it. Imakodesh hamakorati shemimeno hi novad, to relink it up, not to make some new link, so to speak, to make some new, leave what you did up till now and reconnect to something that I believe in, some godly whatever. No, lechabra imakodesh hamakori, to return it to its holy roots from which it emanates. That's its source. The body doesn't live alone. The body is, again, the initial manifestation of the neshama that prepares its vehicle, like I said, to express itself in this world. So the goal is to connect the body, like over and over again, the same idea, right? To reveal, to expose, to reconnect, to link up the body, this national movement, to its holy soul, holy source from which it emanates, which is the true source. And that's our goal, again, in spite of all the surface challenges, again, from within and from without. Because if you don't do the job, like I said, God has these mechanisms, like I said, these crises. Necessity will force you to return to yourself, because it's a historical imperative. The Jews have to come back to land, will be this nation, the holy nation, will bring the world to its completion. The world will not be destroyed and wiped out, and world weapons of mass destruction of all the gloom, and the sun will destroy. The world is going to its ultimate connection to Hashem, the goodness of holiness that infuse and improve and imbue all. That's not a if. That's God's plan. The whole purpose of creation is just to reach that point. It doesn't stop there. There's no stopping. It's ad infinitum, the connection and the linking and the flowing of life. But this whole process, all of creation was just to reach that, to get to that. Nothing can stop that. All of creation was created. All the different things, even the things that seem to be negative, were created as the means, either to facilitate in the negative or in the straight way, or in the round. By overcoming it, you'll be forced to get back to your true essence. But that's the essence. That's the reality. That's the goal of creation. That's not that man can get rid of that or decide to go against God. But how we get there is, part of it is in our hands. God prepares all the means and all the historical challenges, something if you forget, but you have to come back to the understanding and the awareness to be yourself, to live up to that. And that's what's taking place now. With all the challenges that we're living until this day, and now even more, and the final stage, there's a greater, like what's it, the Rabbi said, like the last stance, whatever, like all the different forces try to muster up all their energy, that they realize it's about, their time is over, so to speak. Now the good is about to reveal itself fully, and they try, in all the nation, and all from within the nation, from within Israel, to try to strip us from any national identity, any holy, what's going on, if you're aware, in the army, and in the education ministry, and the how do you say, the mishpatim, the justice. But as you see, the nation in this election, people are very shocked that the nation isn't going for all that. Doesn't fall for all the, how do you say, the tikshoret, the media that's trying to tell it we're like everyone else, we're worse than everyone else. They're publicizing everything that's bad. The leaders are bad. We're corrupt. We're evil. Like to show that we're not special. There's no uniqueness. Nothing good in Am Yisrael. To try to pull down anything religious, anything spiritual. I don't want to mention what someone on the radio said a few days ago. A few unbelievable words. But they're frustrated because this inner, because it's towards the end, in other words, towards the beginning of this absolute good, that the forces of evil, these negative things, are about to fall aside, and they making, like I said, their last stand, their last attempt to try to defeat. So we have to be even doubly strong, because it looks like, look how the noise they're making, it looks how seemingly popular, but now we see they're not so popular with all the noise and all that they run the media. But you see the nation is healthy, wants Torah, wants nationalism, wants religion, but it also won't be so simple right away. Apparently, we have yet to go. That was Mincha now. There's another paragraph I wanted to read to you. But also, Rav Kook explains how this is the secret, the inner essence of the redemption process that gives it the power to continue to grow. What's taking place today? What's bringing us back to Israel? We came back because of pogroms and the Holocaust. And now we're running away from, or like Herzl said, right? A miklat patuach, safe refuge. Running away from persecution and find a nice place to rest. But that's again, you can say that on the external, I think the conscious side, but the sub or the super conscious level, Rav Kook explains a much deeper level here, how it rises from this desire to bring the world to its ultimate goodness, the ultimate fulfillment of what God wants, wishes of absolute good for the world. And that is the driving force of our redemption, not just to come back to be a nation, to be a holy nation, religious, our private religious nation. It's more than that also. It's not just our being religious and holy nation isn't just for us. That is what it means. That's the heart that gives life and meaning and blessing to all of creation, all of mankind, all of existence, to bring it to, like we said in Yeshayahu, right? To beat your swords into plowshares, the new mankind, a new orientation, what drives him, what drives life. Anyway, that's what we're trying to learn and to be part of. Is Hashem.